Hey developers, today we're going to take a look at creating a headless CMS using DatoCMS with a Nuxt.js front end. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Hey, and if you don't know, my name is Eric. I'm a full-stack software developer and also the author of the Vue.js in Action book. And if you guys are interested in getting the first chapter of that for free, make sure you click on the link in the description below, and I'll actually also throw in a Vue.js cheat sheet. So make sure you check that out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a headless CMS and then connect it up to a Nuxt.js app. And I went ahead and picked DatoCMS because they had some... It looked pretty easy to set up. It has a GraphQL backend, and also just overall, it looks fun to use. You know, this is not sponsored by DatoCMS at all. I just thought maybe I'd try this out since on my last video, I actually used GridSum. If you guys are interested in GridSum, make sure you click on the link here, and you can learn all about how you can set up basically a Gatsby.js version of an app using Vue.js, which is really cool. But I thought I'd say, you know, a lot of people love Nuxt. I got some comments that people really wanted to see how you connect a CMS with Nuxt. So I thought I'd go ahead and show you guys doing it this way. If you guys like this, you know, there's a whole bunch of CMSs I could do videos on and connecting it up to something like Nuxt. WordPress is definitely interesting. It's a lot more setup, and the steps are a lot more involved. I've seen some really cool templates of people using WordPress with Nuxt, installing a bunch of plugins. I'll probably go over that sometime in the future, but this looks pretty easy to start off with. So first, if you're not familiar with it, we'll need to go ahead and create, inside our Nuxt app here, we'll go ahead and create a new Nuxt app, that is. So I have Visual Studio Code open, and I have a shell open. And then I have Node 10 installed. I believe you can get it work with Node 9, but this is just as easy. And then what you want to do is create a new app. And to do that, you type in npx create Nuxt app, and then the app name, which we'll just call Nuxt example Dato. And after you do that, it'll fetch some stuff, and then it'll ask you a series of questions, which will ask us what type of app we want to create for Nuxt. So we'll just give it a second here. All right, so it's asking us a few questions, so we'll just use Nuxt example data. We're just going to hit enter all the way through here. We'll choose Express, none. We're going to have a universal app. We'll install Axios. We might use that later. No. No for prettier, and then the author name, no, and we'll leave it as npm as the package manager. And then it'll go ahead and set up our app for us. All right, so let's go ahead and install one more thing. So we want to install Apollo, and that's a library that allows us to talk to our GraphQL DatoCMS system. So let's do Nuxt.js Apollo. And I guess I need to not have an O here. And just to make sure I did this right, you don't really need -- save depending on your version of Node, but we'll just go and add it in there anyways. Okay, so that's installed. So let's go ahead and do a little bit more configuration. So I'm going to go into my Nuxt example folder here, and I'm going to open the Nuxt config file. And this file is where it'll show us everything. I'll make it a little bit bigger here. This little file will show us all the information for Nuxt and how to configure it. So under the mode universal, we'll actually look for modules. So right here is where we want to add the modules. So we'll add in this Nuxt.js Apollo, which is perfect. And then we need to do a little bit of configuration after that. So after we put in the modules, we're going to create an Apollo, which will look like this. And this will be another object here. And then inside this object, this is where we're going to set some value. So we're going to create something. This is all in, by the way, in the configuration for Apollo in the GitHub. So we'll do client configs. And then in client configs, we'll create a default config. And in there, we're going to put an HTTP endpoint. And since we're using DatoCMS, that's HTTPS GraphQL.DatoCMS.com. And then we're going to have get auth. And then under there, we're going to put a bear, and then we're going to put a bear token. This is going to be what we're going to grab out of our DatoCMS. So let's begin. Let's get our DatoCMS up and running. Okay, I'm logged into DatoCMS. So what you can do is you can go to datocms.com, just click on login or try it for free. You can create a free login, and then it'll bring you to this dashboard after you log in. Now, I already created a demo one, but I'll create a new demo. So what I'll do is I'll click this new project, and then I'll click blank project. And then in blank project, this is where I'm going to create my new one. So I'll just call it Nuxt Demo 2. Well, let's call it Nuxt DatoCMS. I'll click create project, and then here it is. So I'll click on it, and that'll bring up this window, this dashboard here. And this is where I can create content that my Nuxt.js app can read from the GraphQL. So I'm going to hit plus here. So we'll just start off with something simple. We'll do post, and then we'll click save model, and then we'll add a new one, which we'll call, so basically what we're doing is we're creating a model called post, and then inside post we'll have like a title, we'll have text, and then we'll also have like a slug. So let's add something here. We'll do single line, and we'll call this title. And there's some other validations and other things, but we're not going to look into that right now. We'll do text, single line. We'll have just text here. I guess, well, we'll call it body, I suppose. And then we'll create one more field, but we'll make this multi-line, and we'll just call this slug, just for fun. All right, so now we have this title, body, and slug in our new post. So what we can do now is, well, first, let's grab the API tokens for this. So if we click API token, it's going to ask you full access API token or read only. Just for this demo, I'll do read only, and I'll go ahead and copy it. And then what we can do is we can actually bring up a GraphQL database. So let's open up a new tab. So here's the GraphQL basically way we can test the database out. So we'll paste in that token that we had before. We'll hit enter. And here is our GraphQL, so we could start doing queries. So we're just going to delete all this for now, but if we just open and do this opening closing bracket here, then if we hit Control Tab, we can see everything in here. So we can see all posts or posts. So if we do all posts, we could take a look here, and we just want to grab the body. We could play. You see here there's nothing in it. So we want to add some information into our Graph CMS. So we can do that by going to the content, and please select the content you want to edit. So we're going to go to post, and we'll create a new record. So we'll call it title. This is new. Body, this is, well, let's do a title called my new blog. This is a cool blog. And I guess we could have made this multi-line. And we could call it my new blog is the slug. And we'll click save. And I went ahead and published it. So if we go back to our GraphQL here, GraphIQL, and hit play, now we can see, yep, we have the body. We also, if we do title, we have the title. So perfect. So what we want to do now is go back into our config here, and where we had that API key, we'll go ahead and we'll just copy and paste it in here. And we'll okay, let's go ahead and run the app. So I'm going to run npm run dev, and that should go ahead and run it. Make sure it works okay. It'll build it. Great. If we go ahead and open up localhost 3000, there it is. There's our example app. Looks good. So it's running. So let's go ahead and try out let's see if we can go in and do a GraphQL using Apollo to connect to our CMS and grab some information. So to do that, we need to, let's go ahead and open up the index.vue. So I'll open up our index view file. That's where index information is. But what we want to do is right underneath this script tag is we'll create our GraphQL query. So we're going to import GQL from GraphQL tag, and then we're going to export. We'll do export default by normal, like normal, but this time we're going to add this Apollo, which is our GraphQL, and we're going to do all posts. We're going to do this GQL, and then we're going to use this tick, this tick there, and this is kind of what you have to do. If you use this in React, it looks probably pretty similar. And then we're going to grab all posts, and then we're just going to grab the title for now. But actually, we can create the body in slug too. It doesn't really matter. Then at the top here, I'm going to just delete a few of these things. We have Nuxt links, my excellent Nuxt.js project. So let's say like right here, instead of doing this, we actually create some links here. So we'll create a link. We'll do a v4 directive, and we're going to do a post. We're going to grab the index as well in all posts, and we'll make sure we do that, and then we'll make sure we add a key. So we'll do key here, and that'll equal the index. And then inside here is where we'll actually do some things. So inside here, we can just look at the post.title. So let's save that, and we'll get an error here. All right, actually, I had made a quick change. So I realized that how I had it set up would not work. So I needed to do is I went ahead and created a new Apollo folder under my node example DatoCMS, and I created config, and basically I copied and pasted the HTTP endpoint and get auth in there. And by the way, I didn't need to put the bearer token in there, is what I found out. So basically I did export default function context, and I had this return here and the get auth, and then inside my Nuxt config file, I just did default here and then pointed to the Apollo config file. And then when I saved it, it actually worked. So sorry about that. That's a quick correction in the tutorial here. But you can see here now I am getting the title. So if I go back to my index.vue, I should actually be able to get more information. But what I want to do, though, instead of doing it this way, is I want to create a blog, and I want these to be basically that slug that I created. I want it to be inside our app here as individual pages that we can bring up. So what I want to do is not just have the title here, but I'm going to create a Nuxt link. And then inside the Nuxt link, I have a 2. And the 2 is going to equal our blog. And then we'll put in this post slug. And that should do it there. This is my Nuxt link, and I'll have the name of it be that post title. And if I save it, so now you can see here's a link, but obviously we don't have anything there, so it just gets an error. So I'll delete this. But we can create that page for it. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to create inside our pages directory a new file, and if we put underscore slug.vue, basically what that means is that it'll be some dynamic data that we'll put through it, and that dynamic variable slug can be then used here to create it. So let's do this. We'll create a template, and then we'll put a div tag, and we'll have an h1 tag, and we'll do the post.title. And then we'll put a paragraph tag, and then we'll do post.text. And then we'll create a script tag, And then in the export default, we're going to do a query. But this time, what we're going to do is we're going to use a library called GraphQL tag. Well, we're going to use the same GraphQL tag library, and we're going to do another query, but we're going to filter it. So I'm actually going to copy and paste this to make it a little bit easier on you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and start writing this query here. And so what this will do is this slug is dynamically created, and we'll pass in to it the value of the name of the slug value of the name of the blog, which will then generate it. And then we'll just show the title at the top. So first, what we need to do is import from our GraphQL library the GraphQL tag. Then we're going to have this Apollo. We're going to leave this Apollo bracket here. And then we're going to have this post. And inside this post, we're going to create a variables method, which is going to return a slug. So this is all a part of Apollo. This is a way you can create certain variables. And so it's going to retrieve the value from this.route.params.slug. So that's what's passed into the route. So if you put /blog/ whatever, this is what's passed into it, and that's going to be stored as a variable into the slug variable. Then we're going to create a GraphQL query where we're going to do this GraphQL query. Remember, you have this tag or this quote tick right there where we do query post. So we're creating this new variable called slug, which we had defined here in the variables. It's a string. And then inside it, we're creating this post filter. So what we want to do is we want to do a query in our GraphQL and only return back this route, this slug. So to do that, we're going to go and create the title, or we're going to return back the title. We're going to use this matches pattern. You might see in React, in React's Apollo, there's also EQ. There's a few other ways to do this. And we're going to do this pattern. It has to equal the slug, which is this going to be this route param. And then we're also going to do a prefetch. So what this is that every time the route before the route loads, we're going to grab the slug as well. And that should be it. So that's everything we need to get started with our GraphQL. At the top, I went ahead and created this h1 tag. I put a vif to make sure it doesn't try to load unless post exists. And if it does, it shows the title. And then we can do the same thing with we can do it for the body, I believe. So if we save this all up, you see here's an example app. It's running. There's no errors. And we have our one and only blog post. If we click it, cool, we see my new blog post. So it shows up at the top. So if we go back to our here, we can see here we have a title and a body. So I guess we have to make sure down here that we have the body. Otherwise it won't show up. So I just put the same query inside our GraphQL here, GraphIQL, and you can see it's working. So if we go back here, click on it, so now we see both. This is a new cool blog, my new blog, it's working. So just to make sure you could see it's working, we can go back here and go to our content, our post, and we can add a new record, and you can call it, I don't know, second blog post. This is a second blog post, does it work? And then for the slug, we can put in second blog post, and we'll save it, which is perfect. Everything's saved. So now if we go back to our our app, that is, and we refresh it, now we see two. We have our second blog post and then my new blog post. If we click in second, cool. So now it's pulling it from the GraphQL database. And of course we get all the cool stuff with Nuxt. It's server-side rendered. So on the first initial load, it's really quick. And plus we have all our data in DatoCMS that we can pull from. So I know this tutorial went not perfectly, so I did put a link below to the GitHub so you can see exactly what I did to make this all work. And if you guys have any questions, make sure you leave a comment below. And if you like these videos, click that subscribe button and make sure you share this with your friends. Thanks.